All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And we are back. What'd you guys think? Did you guys see or hear the episode last week with Willem Amadant talking about decoding Dakar? I'm actually recording this in succession. Full disclosure, just hung up the phone with him. But you guys will be hearing this episode a week later on the podcast. So how's everybody doing? Are we ready? We're talking to none other than Wes Carr, 2024 Dakar Rally entrant. And we're going to be talking about his journey in 2023 to make it happen for 24. Very interesting stuff. It is not as easy as you think. If you guys are following along with the decoding Dakar side of things, you know a little bit more about it, and that you can't just swipe a credit card and be on the plane to Saudi. You got to go through the process. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that process coming up here in just a few minutes with Wes Carr, find out a little bit more about his story. So let's get ready to get him on the line and get it going. Don't forget, Rally 1 coming up if you guys have not already heard it. Let's see here. Let's get technology queued up. What do you guys think about the new intro song? I like it. Just saying. Let's see. That is that one. There we go.
Hello, this is Wes.
Wes, how are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
Doing very well. It's a Friday and the coffee is working.
There you go. I can be thankful for Friday. Also, I've had a very tough time getting engaged and getting back to work this week.
That was gonna be my first question, because I think it's like you did this. It was there's this like little rally that they do, right?
Right. There's a tiny little thing in Saudi Arabia. You just buzz over there, rip around, and come home.
Yeah. No. That's that's my understanding too. But it's like a 15-day rip across 5,000 miles. But whatever. Details.
It's a lot to look back on, to be honest. I've kind of spent a bunch of the week just, watching some highlight videos and reading, some podcasts and going through some of this stuff and hearing what people have to say about it all. Cause, we don't even have phone service a bunch of the time there. And obviously super short on energy. And, I'm not a big I have no social media to be honest. I have Snapchat because my kids told me to get it. So a caveman, you might say, when it comes to some of that stuff. So I have to do it when I get home with a computer. Yeah.
And so that's an actually interesting thing. From what you hear in the podcast and also, obviously it's just the coverage that you've seen. I feel like it has nothing, like the two don't line up. There's so much more to it than what actually could get covered, right?
Yeah. So, I'm not a podcast guy either, let's say, but Quinn Cody and I can't remember the other guy.
Yeah, Jesse Ziegler.
Yeah. So, those guys, I started listening to their stuff, and I don't think I'm even to stage 3 because but the coverage of it in America is really, really small. I think there's more interest than there is coverage, but there's still, I've been added to a couple of group WhatsApp chats and a few email lists, of people that share like interests in rally. And it's a super small amount of people in America, man. It's tiny.
Yeah. It is. It's tiny and it's growing, but if it's tiny now, it was really bad a year, 2 years ago.
For sure. But I think that there's a lot of people out there that will don't know about it. They would super dig into this sport. Like, I think there's a ton of potential with some of the terrain we have. Everywhere in the U.S. There's just awesome terrain everywhere. Now, land use is going to be an issue, but you don't have to have 8,000 kilometer races either.
Yeah, exactly, dude. That you so just hit it on the head. That's my thing. It's like a lot of the rallies, and granted, they have their place, right? People want to go race in Mexico. They want to go race. They want to go race for a week-long thing, but we also want to do a couple of days. And maybe only do 100 miles a day, of road book and just some shorter stuff. So I did 100% with what you just said. Not everything's got to be a big event.
Well, the other, Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge, Sonora, Morocco, I felt like you were being invited there and they were happy that you came and there wasn't the big numbers. Yeah, it was a big feel for and a lot of press and everything felt good. But like, I didn't get the feel that they were trying to kill us every minute of every day like I did in Dakar. I mean, I didn't know that going in there, Victor, and I'm not saying that in a mean or derogatory way at all, but like, it's full on. It was more than I expected, and it was there wasn't a lot of racing going on. There was quite a bit of survival.
Yeah, that was more it was the survival than racing.
Got a lot of things to live for, and a lot of obligations at home, and once I had a lot of good mornings. Once the cars come around you and start kind of changing the track, and there's more cars coming, and dust, and you name it. It just kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit after that point. Kind of each morning, I'm a morning guy anyway, so like I had a lot of fun for the first 150K especially each day, and back to that word survival. Just had to be really careful. After that
switch from thriving to survival mode, it kind of happens. So,
you make a bunch of promises to a bunch of people when you go sign up for something like this. So like, to be true to what I kind of told some people I'd be careful, and I had to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I honestly think that for the vast majority of us, or at least my personal view is that the Dakar is not, it's a rally race, but I think that 90% of people there aren't there to compete for the podium. It's just the ability to say, I completed every stage.
Yeah,
and I made it to the end.
Obviously, the GP guys are getting paid to race.
Yes, they very much so.
But the real wild competitors are the top of Rally 2, looking for a ride. Those guys are, they're super talented, but they're pushing themselves. They're pushing themselves as hard as anybody there, and nobody got. There's a bunch of injuries, but nobody got. That was pretty impressive how resilient that group is. The Topo Rally 2 is wild men.
Yeah, I can see that. That's very true. They're obviously they're being looked at by the teams. They understand they're already well on the way to becoming paid to do this. And so I think that is a very it is. You're right. It's a very difficult position. They have to be sending it like these guys up front, in the Rally GP class. I mean, they were mixing it up with them. I mean, we saw Rally 2 guys in the top 10 overall dicing with these guys. So it's
it was fun. I know a few of those guys. You get to know a lot of people doing this, and actually that's been a real fun for me to be. I'm American through and through. I've done some traveling for vacation and, stuff like that. But like, to go to these different countries and get to touch these different cultures, and it's just a blast, and meet all these great people. And let's be honest, everybody that's there is kind of extremely like-minded. I mean, you have to be a little bit twisted to do rally, and you have to be a little bit twisted to follow it and support it. And it's even worldwide, it's a very small group of people that would want to compete like this.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is you're going to hand me a piece of paper with a bunch of hieroglyphics on it, and then you're going to want me to go navigate this for 15 days in a row?
Yeah. Awesome. The navigation, really, that's the fun part. And that's the part that even when you're getting past and the trail's challenging, mm-hmm. it's the one thing you can do awesome and do it safely. Mm-hmm. Now I got some penalties. I mean, I'm ashamed of it, but at the same time, I accepted those penalties. I hit the green button to hit okay to pass those waypoints, because I was either completely out of energy and talent, or I felt like I was just not safe to head back in towards traffic and risk it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a very, there's, like Ross said, it was 10,000 to win it and 1 to throw it away. And yeah, to go back on your tracks, if you're not exactly sure where that waypoint is, if you thought you were on track, I mean, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And you don't know when that decision is coming, besides the navigation.
Another thing about the navigation and, if you're on the bike, like, the GP guys, my hat's off to them, tons of respect. They do it consistently and they don't get hurt very often. And, they're on the bike a lot less than a guy like me. I mean, this is quite a load for, somebody that's slow and being careful to be on the bike between, I think the one day I was on the bike 14 hours. Mm-hmm. And that's that when you're looking at these computers and you're trying to do a good job with your road book, because your speed sucks and you want to stay tight on that. I mean, pretty soon there's times I wasn't understanding what I clearly understand, and my brain's just not working right. I mean, it's time to get off this bike no matter what. Mm-hmm. And there was some of that for sure. And when it goes to collecting that waypoint, okay, it looks like it's trying to achieve the next one. Why is it not doing this and that? And pretty soon you're like a little confused even. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Maybe it's my low ability, but man, I got to the point where I didn't understand simple things a few times.
Yeah. And I can say my road book experience is limited, but I've always been on the organization and administration side of it. And I've seen it both in tracking, following racers with the rally comp and watching the decisions that are being made on waypoints and how they'll circle around or go through different canyons, or, the tracking updates every few minutes. Right. So it's like, one update cycle, the bike's over here up this canyon, and then the next one it's over here on this one, and they're just playing like hide and go seek with this waypoint. And then you talk to the rider when they come in, hey, how are you feeling, and all that stuff, and you just see it in their eyes and their their demeanor. It's like, dude, they're not blowing bubbles, but if I ask them what 2 + 2 right now is, the answer is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And, the riding follows that same talent tank. And so, I mean, this is hard stuff to talk about, but like the amount of crashes and injuries sustained in the last little bit of stages. I mean, we learned that day too, the hard way, but like after that serious crash and ended up really, really sad. But, there were 3 more significant crashes between that moment that I went by there and the end of stage. And I'm just going to throw this out there as a number. 15, maybe 20 kilometers from the end of the race, there were 3 more what I would call serious crashes.
Yeah.
And that just told me, like, this is day 2, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, old man, what are you doing here? You're really going to have to protect yourself if you got any chance of getting to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, it's interesting. It's like in the events I say, when everybody's home, meaning when everybody's at the bivouac, that's, when tracking shuts down and that kind of thing. And it's interesting that they draw that line. They say most accidents happen when you're only just a few miles from home.
Yeah. Right.
And in this case, I mean, I guess it applies to rally too, based on, what you're saying is that it's always that last stretch, right? I guess people let their guard down a little bit,
Sure.
maybe pushing a little harder. They already, you have the countdown in front of you, that you're, running out of road book. And man, that is, let's go all the way back. How did you even get started on this adventure?
Well, I was wondering how far you wanted me to go back. I mean,
most of the listeners, I'll just, most of our guys that listen to this podcast, they're here because they are getting into rally. They've had a little bit of rally experience, but really, honestly, the most majority are like, how do I even get into this? What's the story? Because everybody, it's like Microsoft Excel. I was literally just talking to Willem Aminen about it. Microsoft Excel, everybody knows a different feature. Nobody knows how to use the whole program. So everybody's experience on how they got into rally is a little different.
For 10 years, I've been going to figure out how to use Excel. Maybe 20 years, to be honest. And I still haven't done it. I don't know.
Right there with you, dude. I have no idea. And then somebody goes like, oh, just do Control Alt, semicolon. What? No, just do it for me.
So let's see. I think I'm 47 years old, and I had bikes, first bike when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I had a bunch of different bikes up to the point where I bought a new one in when I was 16, 2-stroke thing, and banged around on that. Never raced it. Thought I was going to get hurt on that. Sold it for a street bike, kind of had that for a while. Thought I was going to get hurt on that. Got married. I think when I got married, I knew I wanted a dirt bike to like commute back and forth to work and mess around. In Minnesota, we have, it's a lot of agriculture. So there's tons of gravel roads, kind of like mile by mile grid, right? Mm-hmm. No features, just a lot of miles of gravel roads. Yeah. And so I brought I had for the longest time an 03 XR650L. Mm-hmm. And that, I didn't put a ton of miles on it, but I had a lot of fun on it, and it worked really, really good when my children were young. I mean, at one point, I had my 2 younger children in front of me on that thing, and my oldest daughter behind me with a backpack full of drinks and snacks. And we did little adventures on that with. You might say less than a 1-year-old child on the front, and a 6 or 7-year-old girl in the back, and another one in front of me in the middle of that. So it was awesome. I had that for a long time, and then we go to 2016. Now, probably back up just a second. I got the kids into bikes right away. XR50. Actually, we had a Honda 3-wheeler. I think that was a 70. Still have it, of course. Still have all this stuff. But, the kids, the dirt bike with training wheels was easier to ride than the 3-wheeler because it was a twist throttle versus a thumb throttle. It was harder for them to push the thumb throttle than it was for them with a helmet on. All they had to do was kind of lean. Gravity would take over with the helmet, and their wrist would go down against the throttle stop on the XR50, and they would start to move. Yeah. So pretty soon, they're like 1 year old, and they realize that if they lean their head to the right, they move and they go, and pretty soon they're chasing you around the yard on this thing, and it's just awesome. And then it was 70s, 90s, 110s, 125s, 230s, mm-hmm. and then got good stuff like a Beta 125, RR, and then my son, I think he clapped out a 2014 350 EXC, KTM stuff. So good stuff at the end, but a lot of little bikes in the middle there and tons of fun. So now we'll jump to 2016. I'm in Arkansas with some friends riding street, mm-hmm. and I still have this same XR 650L, and we're riding the street and grabbing a burger, and all of a sudden, like 100 dirt bikes come by, and somebody swings in, and they're having problems, and we're pretty handy, and we're helping them, and got to ask them, what are you guys doing? And they say, well, we're doing this thing called the Arkansas 500. So whatever. We ask a few questions, help this person with some fuel issues, and get them going. And one of the guys I'm with, he says, well, I guess I know what I'm doing next spring. And that's kind of where it settled. On the way home from that road biking trip from Arkansas, he's like, well, I said, if I'm going to do this trip with you, I'm not riding that heavy, that thing barely handles the gravel roads, let alone if you get into some sand or anything else. And I literally stopped on my way home and put a new a 2016 500 EXCF in the trailer, and like I was just all in right there. So that's kind of the restart of two in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that would have been roughly 7 or 8 years ago, however you do the math there, and that's where the two-wheeling all started. So then to touch on that for a bit, I did some of those adventure type rides like the Arkansas 500, the Minnesota 300. I went from a GPS Kevin ride from San Diego to Cabo. I think I did a couple other ones like that. And then I got down to Arkansas again with some friends that I'd road bike with, and then, kind of went around the national forest down there some more. And then they had heard or known about a few of these trails that got a little tougher. And, it was in a few trips there in probably 17 or 18 where I just totally fell in love with this kind of difficult single track stuff. So we're talking really low speeds, low impact, a lot of get-offs and a few crashes, but like not a lot of risk with those crashes as far as, serious crashes. And started just pounding the single track, and then did a bunch of that. I don't know, went to Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, you name it. There's a bunch of stuff in northern Minnesota by Walker that was kind of all single. There was a bunch of designated single there, and it was challenging. It is challenging. Yeah. I got my kids up there a bunch, and my oldest two are daughters, and I put them through the ringer up there, and we just had a lot of fun with the single track thing. And
nice.
The girls got older and got a little less interested. Obviously, I would do that differently. I wouldn't throw them into the rough single track stuff again. If I had the ability to go back and do that, I would have been a better father. We'd have done.
Not throw them into that rough.
They'll be riding with them now instead of, they learned a lot, and they still talk about it, and they know they learned a lot from learning how to crash and doing things that you think you can't do, and it's all good. But so that kind of gets us probably to about COVID. And then COVID, by then we owned a little piece of property with a cool cabin up on a bluff above a lake, or whatever you want to call it, where 5 rivers join and it goes into the Arkansas River. It was just this cool little piece of property, and we trailered out of there and went and rode these other kind of single track areas, and there was some true track areas there too, but did that. I don't know, the girls kind of probably lost some interest there. Anyway, I end up at home. They're going to school, and I end up there too much, and I ended up getting connected with somehow with Lyndon Paskett's Races to Places. And that is where it all started. It all took off from that 15-minute little episodes of him traveling the world, and the story, and then the people that he met, and his other friends, and the African Eco Race, and the Dakars, and the other international races that he did, and it was just the stories and the groups and the camaraderie and all that stuff. And pretty soon I'm running around the house telling my kids, I'm a desert racer and I know it. I just have to get out of this. I just have to figure out how to do this. And so lots of jokes, still laughing today internally at our house about, me running around watching these silly videos, great videos, but and me being silly running around telling them I'm a desert racer and blah, blah, blah. So that's how the fire gets lots of oxygen and starts to really flame up. And then I think it was towards the end of Lyndon's where he was kind of with Camilla and trying to settle down and figure out how to, do something different without all this travel. And him and Frederick came out with those, ride with us training stuff. And I think I was one of the very first people to respond and apply to do that. Like I got the email like right at Sunday night supper with my family, and I literally stopped what I was doing, filled it out, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, well, these things are going to fill up fast if there's other nerds like me out there that want to get into this, and this is a heck of an opportunity. So I just jumped right on it, and it was that within a day or two, I'm talking to Lyndon Baskett on the phone about getting over there, getting over to Spain or Portugal or wherever to do this stuff. And this is a cute fact is the day I finished Dakar, my daughter snapped me an old snap memory she had of 3 years ago today. My dad got us on the side of the road, so we keep cell service, and he's talking to some famous YouTuber about dirt bikes. So, I mean, that's an ironic 3 years to the day from when I talked to Lyndon the first time I finished Dakar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, that is, I mean, I wonder how many Dakar graduates Lyndon has, that followed your process.
Yeah, no, there's probably a small number, but like, if you think about how few touches he actually has on society versus how many people does Dakar, it's a pretty high ratio. So like, I know of a few, and, even the people that didn't really get trained from Lyndon, he touched a lot of people with those videos. And I just think that, his positive attitude and the way he presented those, and maybe the COVID era and some of that stuff, it just really hit good. But yeah, nice. So I tried to get over to Spain and Portugal a couple different times, and we just can't travel with COVID. And anyway, finally, I believe I know it is in March of 2022. It works, and I get to Spain, and this is all happening. And very challenging, heavier bike than I'm used to. We had super cold, rainy. We even rode in the snow on that trip. We had a lot of interesting weather conditions there, and we had just a good group and a lot of learning. I had learned the whatever 85 symbols that I needed to do to read the road book, and my wife was a teacher, made flashcards for me, so the kids went through them with me every night, and just did all the things and got myself a little bit physically healthy for that training, and it was awesome. Fell in love with it. By the end of that training, the end of that week, it came up. Lyndon said, well, we're doing this Hellas rally thing. Do you have any interest in that? Hellas rally in Greece. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm super interested, but like, I need to talk to my family. And my wife was like, yeah, whatever. So like in 5 minutes, I made the decision whether I was going to go to Hellas or not. And I knew that before I even left Spain in March. So went back over the pond in June to Hellas, and that was competitive, I don't know how much you want me to talk about Lyndon's training, but he was hard. He was like, I remember getting through a challenging area, and then he was there waiting for me on the trail, and he's like, good job, Wes. Nice work. You got here, but you didn't do it perfect. He said, you're ahead of the guys. We need to keep the group together anyway. He said, why don't you just go back there 10 kilometers and do it right this time? I was like, I was exhausted.
Blowing bubbles, and he's like, yeah, just go back. Just jog back 10 miles or 10K.
I remember looking at him like, that's great, dude, but like, I'm paying for this experience, and it said I could, just do what I wanted to do on this. And he's like, no, go do it. And I was like, all right. So, almost like a bit of a father figure at that moment where he's like, go do it right and figure it out and do it better. And I was like, all right. So yeah, anyway, we get to Hellas Rally in June, and that's another, I don't know who else I knew. I don't think I knew any of the other guys on the team.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. Maybe I knew a couple of guys. I don't know. I'd have to really go back and look at, old stuff and figure out who was all where. It's just been a lot of stuff in a couple of years is what I'm trying to get at here.
Oh.
Or not even a couple of years, a year and a half. But Hellas was awesome. I loved the competitive part of it. Those people were crazy there. I watched no less than 25 people like really pile up in front of me, riding in the dust, crazy, terrible navigation. It was a wild thing. Yeah. So all I had to do was stay in the cockpit and navigate. And, I finished pretty well for my second time ever reading road books and it being competitive. So I was really happy with that and learned a lot, and had a blast.
Nice. And I've heard that the Hellas Rally is no joke. Terrain wise, navigate, like exactly what you just said. I mean, especially the navigation side of it, but I've heard a lot of people don't like the terrain side of it.
Well, don't like,
a little more difficult.
I don't know what they're looking for, but like one guy told me in the Dakar when somebody was complaining and we were all, like you say, blowing bubbles. He's like, well, I guess we shouldn't be complaining. He said, we didn't spend all this money and come here for a haircut, did we? And what's funny is I don't remember his name. I can see his face. I could figure out who he was, but a really funny guy. Yeah. I enjoyed Hellas Rally. And then from there, I wanted to get some sand experience. Mm-hmm. So I think I was signed up for Portugal that fall of 22. And I think Lyndon had like the right amount of guys to go. And I think he had a father and son signed up, and they had a family emergency, and another guy like shattered his elbow or something. So pretty soon a full crew goes down to, less than he needs to make money doing this. So he had to cancel. Mm-hmm. So then he says, sorry, Wes, blah, blah, blah. Come to Spain again. Kind of the same thing, and you'll have fun. And it was true. I did have fun, but I kind of missed the competitive side of it. And Frederick and him, they put together some long stages, and I did them myself. The one I remember finishing way into the dark. And my light behind the road book paper failed. Oh. So they had 150 kilometers in the dark with my I always keep a tail bag on me because I'm an old man and I have to have the right tools, right? So I have a headlamp in that tail bag. I wrap it around my wrist, and I'm riding and using my left wrist with the light on there to show me the road book. And I wanted to complete that thing and do it correctly. So, I remember like Lyndon was like, that's the kind of stuff. And that's the kind of people that finish Dakar right there, Wes. And I thought, well, that felt good. So good. And then it was on that trip, like, I think was my buddy Gareth Jones. I think he had decided that he was going to do Morocco and Dakar 2023 at that point. And I was like, man, that sounds so cool. But I was so I was in Spain for the second time and doing fine, but, not missing the competitive side of it. And I was just like, I think I'm going to take this to the next level. So I talked a bunch with Lyndon, and, he, talking about who to, find a team and who to go with. And he got me pointed in the right direction there, and got me hooked up with Hank Halligers with HT Rally Raid from the Netherlands. And that was an excellent decision, by the way. Very good advice from Lyndon, and what an awesome guy, and what an awesome program he has there. His son Teese is, doing a lot of the heavy lifting with the logistics and keeping things straight now. But that I don't know if I'd be where I am today without getting hooked up for those guys, with those guys. And the first thing I did with them was the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge last February. So not even 12 months ago.
Wow.
And I go over there a few days early, meet those guys, literally on a whim. It just feels crazy not to, have more details and know more about it and this and that. I go over there a couple days early and they put me on an enduro bike and we go ride sand dunes, just to get a feel for what like a sand dune feels like for a guy from Minnesota. And yeah, that was awesome. Got some cool training there and actually rode with two guys on that trip. There were three of us and a gal, but those three guys just finished Dakar together. So that was like, that's another cool fact there. But anyway, Pierre Sace and Ganzi from Mongolia. It's us three in a tent in Abu Dhabi, and not a one of us have the right amount of training we are hanging on by a thread at the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. I literally
just piecing it together.
Oh my gosh. It was seriously dangerous for me in so many ways. I'm not going to say I was completely oblivious to like nutrition and hydration, but you might say that. It was terrible. I had no idea what I was doing from either aspect there, and I had no idea how to ride, sand and how it changed through the day. Luckily, I had one thing going for me, that I've been a big Rocky Mountain snowmobiler, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana, for like 25 years. So reading sand dunes came relatively easy to me because it turns out the sand blows around a lot like the snow does in the mountains. So I kind of had that. I felt like I was confident enough to not jump off broken dunes, let's say, right? But that didn't save my airbag from going off no less than I tell people 13 or 14 times on the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. So we're talking about that many airbag deployments. I mean, just think of how many get-offs and dropped bikes there were. It was endless. It was really tough. Yeah. I knew for sure what day it was, but I was totally out of my mind. Couldn't believe I got to the end of, I think it was the marathon stage day. So day 2 or day 3. And it was 110 degrees out. I didn't know what was going on. I remember having to walk like, I don't know, it felt like 100 or maybe 200 yards to get to the truck, and got a Coca-Cola. Didn't really know. Wasn't making sense of anything. Knew I was in trouble. Knew my temperature was way too high. I had been, way too hot. I was I was super thirsty. I was super hungry. Everything was wrong. I knew I needed help getting out of these clothes, and then I needed to get some food, and I needed to cool down. So like somehow, some way, and I think I had some help, I got to the showers and got chewing on something and drinking something on the way there. And I know that if you've ever been in one of these Bivouac shower trailers, I'm just going to guess. They're like 2.5 by 2.5 little fiberglass bottom shower things, kind of. I literally laid down in there, and I'm 6'4", 220 pounds, and I laid down in there and had that water, and I slept. I was out for like 40 minutes, and kind of came out of that and realized how close I was, and I mean, got my poop in a group, went right to the pasta tent and just started chewing food, anything I could get my hands on nonstop, and, getting my hydration right, and, not so much water, and, needed more of the electrolytes and the salts, and, more of the good stuff, and less water flushing, let's say.
Yeah.
And, figuring all that out. And, by this time, up to that point, you're so anxious, you're so nervous that, sleep really doesn't come very easy laying in sand and having, I don't know what the bugs were. They could fly and they would bury themselves in the sand. You could step on them and they would crawl out of the sand. They're a very tough little bug, and they were a real menace at the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. But anyway, sleep came very difficult in the beginning. And yeah, like I said, whatever day I just described, I had to get everything going a different direction or I wasn't going to make it. And worked very hard to get things going, slept a lot, felt good the next day. Pounded eating so much in the morning that I was nearly sick, and then having some protein and stuff with me through the day, and having more electrolytes with me, so I didn't just have what I had in my on my backpack or in my, I can't say the water.
Oh yeah.
Bladder.
Yeah, the water bladder. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the 3 liters of water that was mixed with the right stuff, I needed to, at fuel stops, I needed to add, more water and more electrolytes and stuff to that, and keep drinking the right stuff all day long. And then as soon as I got off the bike from there, before I even showered, I went and grabbed food. Before I even started my preparations and cleanup, I had to start eating and getting that right. And that really worked out. And I ended up being really satisfied with how the end of the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge really got me motivated. And I knew if I lived through that, and people told me that too, this is very, very challenging. There's a lot of sand, a lot of heat. And that's why there's not quite as many people here as there are at some of these other rallies. And, so I figured if I lived through that one, I could live through any of them.
You're like, well, this is the litmus test. So we either pass or fail on this one.
Yeah. And it's a great memory. And for me, because I just about failed, man. I laying in the shower and going out for at least 40 minutes. That was something else. That was the bottom of the rope, man. That was a close one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine, you just got nothing left in the tank and having to go through all of that. And like I said, I mean, it sounds like it's one of those things that it sneaks up on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're used to, well, you're not used to it, but knowing what I know now, you're used to your talent tank running low. Your riding goes to shit, and then your ability to make good decisions starts to, taper off quite quickly after at the same time or right after that.
Yeah. 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 There's almost a certain timing to it,
And if you don't recognize that, you're in trouble. And that's back to racing these kids on these dirt bikes too. I used to not assess their talent tanks correctly, and I have a whole new respect for what I put them through riding bikes, and just done it differently. They probably would still be doing it, but whatever. Talent tank and knowing when it's time to head to the truck versus try another rip is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, I think that is on both physical and a mental level. I think that is it sounds like, you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, obviously, whether you knew you were doing it or not. And then ultimately surviving that. So now the next thing, this was something that I had talked about, then that decision at the office, that decision at home, that, doesn't seem like such a big deal that it would have, say, maybe before this event. Or before that occurrence. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I've always been, pretty hardcore guy and type A personality. And, I have some business partners, but we have 140 or so employees. So, I mean, and a lot of customers, and, I'm kind of used to being a firefighter the way it is. So and most people at these rallies have a similar, they're the same personality pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a commonality in that, like you were saying earlier, there's a certain level of, I don't know, that has to be present.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I always knew I liked to push myself, and both personally and business wise, and from all the different aspects of life. And yeah, this was definitely challenging. And to get on top of the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge and get that medal was really special.
Yeah, I
hooked up with a super great team that I was super confident in, and I knew if I wanted to go farther in this, like, there's no question that I was with the right people, and I just had a lot of good things going on at the end of that.
Good. Yeah, I mean, that is, and that's an interesting one that I was literally just talking to Willem, is that how they're doing this. Like, you have to do these events in order to be able to qualify to get in. You can't just, swipe a card and send a resume and, expect them to give you a start number.
Yeah.
At the Dakar.
There'd be a lot of people getting hurt if that was, because look at, I mean, it's an expensive endeavor, and not only is it expensive, you have to still have these qualifications or get the invite. So it's there's a reason that when you get towards the tail, the second half of the Rally 2 guys, or even the second 2/3, they got a certain age to them, and they're out there to finish, not to race. They're pushing themselves for an unknown reason.
Yeah, everybody has like a reason, the motivation. They're slightly different, but circling back to what you said is that there is that common. You have to have that mental fortitude to be able to take on an event at the Dakar, but without all of the road, doing the previous rallies, doing the previous pushes, going out and just riding and getting out of your comfort, you're never going to know that.
No, you need to have that. You need to have that experience before you head to Dakar, or that would be my recommendation. I don't think they should start letting people with big black credit cards swipe them and go to the desert in the empty quarter and stuff, because people will not live through that.
Yeah. And it will put, I mean, it can put such a stress on the organization. Even if they do survive it, it's just increasing. Anytime you increase the number of injuries, the number of lost riders, the number of that, any of that, you start, we did the math, and I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, if you counted it, but my understanding is they had your average stage length was about 400 miles, including the liaison. So the figure that for a 200 to 300 mile stage of special where they were actually racing, they had 5 or 6 helicopters.
Yeah,
that's
at least. I mean, I think in some of the bivouacs.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hey, super quick break in the episode. Let's talk about it. We have got the newsletter. If you have not signed up for that already, get on over to the link in the description, head on over to the website and get signed up. So looking to bring you guys information on both Chasing Waypoints upcoming episodes, rally schools, rally events coming up, videos, all the stuff that we've got going on in the rally community here in North America and abroad. We're looking to share that with you guys. So if you haven't already, jump on over. Link is in the description. Head on over to the website, get signed up for the newsletter, and let's get back to the episode.
There were more than 6 helicopters for sure when you take medical and press, and there's no question there was more than that. One of the videos actually said how many. I think there was as many as 12 or 14 total that support the rally, and an airplane. And I think somebody said, I've been watching a lot of stuff lately, so forgive my memory, but I think there was like 75 medical staff people. Yeah. Pretty crazy. And that's why it costs so much to go. I mean, they do a good job, and, that's why they limit it to the amount of bikes. I don't know how many bikes and people that are just about qualified they could have there. There's a lot of people that want to go. The amount of people that are there is what I'm saying. And, let's be honest, these when you don't have a harness, a 5-point racing harness on you, and a helmet that's strapped to the roll cage, the chances of getting hurt when something goes wrong goes really, really, really high.
Yeah.
And keeping track of all of us bikers and the quad guys, that's a whole lot more work for the association than it is these carts and autos and trucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, it's a very different story. I mean, I had the chance to share the control office at Sonora Rally with one of the guys that works on the tracking side. And, what blew my mind is when he told me that there's a whole nother team that takes over once the stage is over and the rally continues. There's a whole team that handles the guys that are still out there from the previous day. And I'm going, wait, what? That handles the competitors that are out there this next day. That's a thing. And he goes, yeah, I mean, breakdowns, whatever the thing is bikes that need to be recovered, things that need to come out of the desert that weren't supposed to be there and weren't there when we went through. It's just like.
Well, the Sonora Rally was a little unique too, because I ended up in the national class. I don't really know how, and it doesn't really matter at this point, because I was doing that as a stepping stone to get my invite to Dakar. So I actually DNF'd in Sonora Rally on an enduro bike in the national class. So a few things didn't go completely as planned there, but it made a great story. What was the point I was trying to get to? Oh, the GP guys. Mm-hmm. They had did they have different? I think they were using ERTF, and we were using
the Rally Comp, correct?
Mm-hmm. So there was that made for a lot of extra work at Sonora. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know, now that Sonora is not part of the WRC stuff, if they're going to just be 100% Rally Comp or how that's going to go down there in the future. But that's a great place for a rally, and I want to do that again in the future. And no matter what it is for control, that won't have any influence. But having just one control would have made that a lot easier for a lot of the administration.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, part of what I do is I administer the Rally Comp side of things, and they will, like you said, they're going to be going back to Rally Comp. They have been Rally Comp for some time, but when the W2RC stuff stepped up, they're ERTF based. So that's the timing system. And it was interesting to see. And really it was the guys where we heard more of it from the cars was the tracks, the way that the ERTF captures a waypoint versus the Rally Comp. The Rally Comp is more, is stickier with that. It has a tighter radius. And we saw a lot of missed waypoints on the Rally Comp side of things because of people following the ERTF tracks.
Yeah, I turned around a lot down there.
Yeah.
And actually, I trained myself. I got into a bad habit down there of going all the way to 0.00 to get to the center because I was sick of turning around. Well, then when I got to Morocco and again at Dakar, I'm going all the way over, and it's dangerous to cut across all those cut across tracks just to get to 000. I don't know how many. I was just wasting a ton of doing that, but I kind of got trained that way. So you know Mike Johnson?
I happen to know Mike Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody knows Mike Johnson.
I know. Where did you meet him, down at Sonora, or is this a long story?
It's not a terrible story. He was a friend to Lyndon.
Oh yeah.
And he was with I just remember him from the Eco race with Lyndon over there, and so anyway, I got to know him because Lyndon had a rally bike in Texas at Mike's. And, last spring of, it would have been March or so of 2023. I went down. I had bought this bike from Lyndon a while ago and had the transaction done, but I hadn't been down to Texas to retrieve the bike because I wanted to make some time to go down there and ride it down there. When I picked it up. So my son and I headed down there last spring for what Mike Johnson and his buddy Mike Rosen, and guys, they call it rally camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually got to have my 14-year-old son. We rented a 501 Husky from, I don't know, somebody in New Mexico. You know him, I'm sure. Slade or something.
Yeah. Slade Robinson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, anyway, rented a 501 with a nav tower and stuff on it. My son rode that, and we went and had a blast with Mike Johnson and his cronies down there.
Nice.
So that's how I got to meet him. And yeah, actually, there's a few more funny things to that story, but it was all good, and it's still all good. And yeah, we've been texting back and forth, because he's still doing some rallies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was at Sonora and went to another one right after that. I don't remember if it was Nora or if it was Coast to Coast or what it was, but anyway, yeah, since I got home from Dakar, we've been messaging back and forth, and he's a good guy.
Nice. Yeah. We started working back in Baja Rally, 7 years ago, I think, somewhere the 2016, I think, was my first year at Baja Rally. And
wow.
And then that was like right when the rally comp first kind of took over. So I've been working with him as it's evolved. And yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that. And he just he nerds out on this stuff. It's cool. Obviously building a rally comp is not an easy thing, to keep track of all of this stuff and all of the back end and to be able to make it happen. And it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it was pretty funny to see, when you had guys in the national class that are used to ERTF, that's all they've ever ran because that's all they do. And then the rally comp is tighter radiuses, more exacting, more that, a lot of guys weren't happy about
smaller screen and a lot going on in there. I mean, he's got it all jam-packed into a nice tight little unit there. But if you're used to the old school ERTF,
mm-hmm.
I have two of them above my road book on my most current rally bike, and geez, it's a lot easier to see at speed than the rally comp. And if those guys have to kind of focus on it and don't know exactly where to look, it takes some time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was I enjoyed seeing the comparisons and seeing how both systems work, because they had their crew in there as well as me and watching the rally comp side of it. So it was good. The office was kind of split in two, but I was managing the assets, helos and tracking on some of the staff vehicles and things like that. But it's really interesting to see those differences. And then here, how, you obviously you've ran it, and you've got experience with both units and how they kind of function and go back and forth. And you have to spend time with them. I know Lyndon uses them, but
and you really need to be brave. I'm an old man, and you don't touch something because you're going to screw it up, right? So you just have to start messing with it and know that it'll go back and be okay. And skipping a waypoint or opening a waypoint sometimes, there's penalties, but sometimes it's stuff you need to do.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's a very good point. It's the decision making and weighing out all the options. And I guess that's where you maybe start to learn that you're slipping a little bit too far down that slope. If you're getting tired, the decision making isn't easy, or it's getting harder and harder. Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely an interesting point. There's a lot of brain power that goes into this. It's not just holding it wide open and hoping for the best.
That's the smallest part about it, man. Most of the riding is natural. You'd be surprised. Now we're jumping all over the place, but you'd be surprised where my brain heads and the things that go through my head when I'm not 100% focused on riding and navigation the whole time. Obviously, it's crazy where my brain takes me sometimes, and I haven't thought about my riding or body position or pitching the bike or any of that stuff for many, many kilometers. And it's gosh, how do you wouldn't be able to tell somebody that you can ride that natural.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really interesting point. And one of my next question is going to be about, all right, for the new guy getting into this, but what you just said is really interesting. It's one of those things where it's 50-50, right? Jimmy Lewis has been quoted saying that, you're either riding or you're navigating, you're either racing or you're navigating. And it's interesting to get into that sweet spot where you're no longer thinking about riding, right? You're no longer thinking about surviving the terrain. You're just doing, it's like when you first learn to ride a dirt bike, that you stop looking at the front wheel.
Three ups, man. Look up, stand up, and shift up. It's I've coached a lot of kids, man, and I coached myself through the whole Dakar because it was just taking too long to get through this terrain. I'm just picking through every rock, and I mean, I didn't think I'd ever have to coach myself that much again. But you're exactly right, man. You get beat down on confidence a little bit, and pretty soon you're looking at every stone, and oh my God, it takes forever.
Yeah.
And once you start, you tell yourself you have to trust the process. Look up, identify those hazards in the turn, and quickly start looking at the next curve. Mm-hmm. You have to do this, so you're going to be out here all damn day and night.
Yeah.
And soon it worked even in the third day, and it worked on the last day. You have to look up and ride. Otherwise, you're going to be out of energy way too soon.
Well, yeah, 10 kilometers is going to feel like 100.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, just to survive it. So, I mean, just to kind of, wrap it up, but knowing what you know now, right? The knowing what you know now question. Getting back into rally, and like, if you were okay, I'm curious about it. What would you like? What would be your path? Would you do anything different? Would you want to do more of a certain something? I mean, what's the?
Well, I think having some sand experience before you go to Abu Dhabi would be extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
Granted, I ran the Baja a couple times, not the Baja race, but I've been in sand.
Mm-hmm.
Never big dunes like that. I didn't, dunes in, I believe, Utah and Oklahoma and stuff that I probably should have done first before all that. But that's probably the only thing I'd probably change with my path. I liked how condensed my path was. I mean, it really happened fast. So like getting healthy physically, and I didn't have to go through any big ups and downs there where I stopped working out for a while, and I kind of stuck with it and kept having the races, and I liked my path. I think I would recommend that to people. I don't know, not everybody's going to have the ability to take that much time off work in a year and a half. Not everybody has the funds to start writing those checks or wiring that money in a year and a half. So, I mean, I get the reasons why that wouldn't work for people. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't spend any energy, fundraising and doing some of the other things. You hear the stories from some of these other guys, and man, they put a lot of work into just getting to the start line, like way more than me.
Yeah.
And I admire that. I mean, that's a real passion. I like to ride bikes, and I got nerded out on the navigation. It's all good, so let's go do it. Mm-hmm. But these guys are like, they're motocrossers or enduro guys, and they just love riding bikes, and they need help to fund some of their dreams. And man, that'd be a more difficult path than I took.
Yeah. But I mean, but there is I'm in looking at it at the high level side of it, is your path was going out and participating in rides that used road books, and then just get that practice going. And then from there, it just grows. And yeah. I mean, that's a really interesting one. And my thought is that, and I talked about this with Willem, is that when you start talking rally, the first name, there's a much bigger majority of people that are going to recognize the name, the Dakar Rally, even though it's small. But it seems like, we're starting to say this more, is that you are judged by, well, did you do the Dakar? Did you finish the Dakar? But personally, for a lot of people, it's like, I could do 10 races for the cost of one Dakar.
Yeah, I don't mean this in any negative or snobby way at all, but I won't be doing the Dakar again unless something changes, chemically in my brain. But
yeah.
There's a million ways to die there. And, that type of physical and mental fortitude is that's a whole next level stuff.
Yeah.
And, sleeping in the truck, not having communication every night with the rest of the world, the food, you name it, that duration wears people. That's a whole different level.
Yeah. I would imagine you come back another person. I mean, after experiencing something like that.
I kind of felt like I came back a little numb, and honestly, some of my muscle hands are still numb. There's some physical things too, but like I seriously tried to stay extremely focused, and I got a big faith, and I really, really dig my big family and all that stuff. So like I had a big support group behind me, let's say. And I needed all of that to get through. And I only got emotional in a good way one time, and I totally squashed it right out like a big bully. I was like, we don't have time for this shit, Wes, and you need to start navigating and start looking up, and here we go. And I actually am having a lot of fun. What do they call that? Debriefing. Now that I'm home and realizing kind of what I've done, I didn't realize I was only the 38th American to ever finish a Dakar rally. Yeah. Until Kyle sent me the email. It's like, I didn't do that research.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool statistic for a guy from Minnesota that just thought it'd be fun to learn road books and run these races.
Yeah. When you were getting started, did you think the Dakar was within the next 3 years?
No, not at all.
If somebody would have told you, you would.
I couldn't say it like that, because I actually, my path is Spain, Hellas, and Spain, and at my second Spain trip, which was October of 22, is when I kind of like, man, I think I'm gonna do this. Nice. So like, I probably did think early on that, I needed to do Abu Dhabi to start getting these international races so I could get looked at. I think I probably did have that desire. Yeah. At the end of Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge, I was like, let's do this.
Yeah. If this is the very edge of my comfort zone, and I do not like what I'm riding here, but yet I'm here on the other end of it, then let's go.
Well, I think, what Hank told me is, if you can do this for 2 weeks, you can do Dakar. Yeah. And, it probably didn't hit me right away, but I was like, you bet. But, the Morocco, I got lucky enough to get my invite right before I left for Morocco.
Okay.
So that was a real treat, to be honest, because then I could stop and help some people, and I could just, I could really do what I wanted at Morocco, and that was enjoyable.
I was going to say, I can only imagine the feeling, right? It's like, if all you're doing this because you're trying to qualify and get into that, and then all of a sudden the work comes down, and now it's like, I can imagine the weight off your shoulders on that.
I have it magnetically held to a whiteboard here. I got the email from the Dakar people July 21st that I was, congratulations, your application was accepted. And that was a heck of a good feeling, man. That was awesome. And Morocco was just easier because of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can imagine. I mean, now you're like, I have to make it to the finish. I have to do this. You don't. And now you're just doing it for the pleasure.
I did have to make it to the finish for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Did not have to make it to the finish in a certain time frame. I had to make it there though. That's mentally the kind of guy I am, I guess. Yeah. So
no unfinished business.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why, gosh, days before I left for Dakar. Well, here's another cute story. So I didn't want anybody on my team to suffer. any more than they had to, let's say, because of ridiculous stuff I'm doing. So we always go somewhere with the kids over Christmas vacation, because my daughter's in college and my other one's about graduating. So and my 15-year-old son. But we head to Mexico on the 26th of December, and I fly back to Minneapolis on the 31st with my family. My kids head back home. My wife and I are in a hotel room for New Year's Eve, and I grab different bags and organize my bags again, and I go to the airport on the 1st, and she goes home. So I was gone for 4 weeks from reality. So I got to get plenty of rest and tons of food, a bunch of beers and stuff. But I did work out a bunch down in Mexico, and I kept myself where I needed to be, and I think helpfully I was able to get myself in the right mindset for Dakar too.
Yeah. I mean that.
And what I mean by that is I probably got myself pretty damn scared.
Yeah. How, like, what do you mean? Tell me about that.
Well, yeah, just wondering if I could do it. I mean, I'll just talk about a specific moment. I think I was scared a bunch of the time down in Mexico and not really talking about it that much. But like, it was just my wife and I got a late checkout on January 1st from my hotel, because I didn't fly out till 4:30. So I kind of wanted to stay there until 1 o'clock, let's say. And so we were just laying on this hotel bed, just talking and saying our goodbyes. And I was seriously shitting my pants, scared at that point, just about the time and the time away and everything. It just really hit me hard there when I had to say goodbye to her. And it was just a few days before that, one of my daughters said, "Well, Dad, what happens if you don't finish?" And I remember it just stopped me in my tracks. And it was like, I haven't spent 20 seconds thinking about that to this point. I literally hadn't spent any time thinking about the what if I didn't succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I started this adventure, I went and doubled down on disability insurance and put millions more dollars on my life insurance and did all the right things that way. But I'd never thought about not succeeding. So it's just, that's another crazy, probably personal or personality characteristic of people that do this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's something very, like, I've been lucky to have conversation with so many, great people, and that, right, that what you're saying, like, as you're saying, and I'm thinking that, and I'm going, that is the difference in the mentality of a lot of people. If you're an overthinker, you, at some point, that if you were more of an overthinker, that conversation of, well, what happens if I would have happened early on? And the problem is with a lot of people that have that conversation with themselves of, what if I don't succeed, or what if I don't finish? And then they just say, well, screw it. I don't have to go. I don't, I could just bow out now and not, but making it so far down the line, literally days before leaving, and that being the first time where that even comes into like hardcore consideration. The other stuff was just the details, right?
Yeah.
The insurance and that's just details, but that doesn't have to mean that the thought of actually having to tap out and take a flight home while everybody's still participating.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We were 8 bikes, I think. We were 8 bikes, and one guy ripped a tendon off a muscle or something in his shoulder. And then Ardith, the world Rally 3 world champion, that Austrian guy, I got to know him really well. I did 2 races I did Sonora and Dakar with him. And he wiped out early and put a big old road rash cut thing on his bottom of his forearm, let's say. And And then he got that under control for a couple days, and then he crashed and popped his shoulder out of place, and dislocated his shoulder and did some serious damage, and that officially scared the shit out of himself there, and couldn't. Got told by the medical people, and I believe they were correct, that if he could maybe ride, but if he would land on that shoulder again, there would be significant future problems.
Yeah.
And he just was so cool about it, man. Both those guys were really cool about like not making it to the end. I was impressed by both Gwen and Ardith on how they handled that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone guy that hadn't even given it any consideration before he left. But and then there was Fabian from Argentina on my team.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the guys, and we could talk for a long time again, more. I don't know how much time you have or whatever, but Fabian from Argentina, we did Morocco together, and he got stuck in the chrono stage in the sand, like 9 kilometers from me. It was so sad because Gonzi and I got there and then got set up, and then Gonzi came, and we were just praying for Fabian to come because we knew he was coming. And then, sun went down. And when the sun was down for a while, we're done eating. Finally, we go down to the organization and we try to figure out where he is. And he's literally like, as the crow flies, like only 9 or 10 kilometers away.
Oh.
So we know he's in the desert, and sadly, and that's just a sad story because he was so upset with himself, because if he would have just stopped trying to get out of the desert in the dark, he could have easily survived the night. Many people did, and drove out the next morning. Piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
Well, he kept forcing it, tried his clutch, smoked his battery from trying to get it running with no clutch, let's say, and then drugged the bike around enough to fill the motor up with sand, I think through the exhaust pipe. So super sad story. And he was so upset with himself because he knew better, and he just wasn't prepared to spend the night. He thought he could make it out. He knew he was close to he knew he was only so many kilometers away. There's just a lot of contributing factors to the reason that it is the way it is with his story. It took him a couple, I think his bike, when they put the new motor in there was something wrong with the new motor. So I think he took a day or 2 off. And then, that ended up being a beautiful story. Yes, the whole time, even at the very end, he was upset that he didn't complete the task, but he did get back on that horse and he did ride it, and he is up to the challenge of doing it again until he succeeds. So it ended up being fine, but to watch him go through that pain, that was devastating for him. And, even at the very end, there was the what if or the but, and it's just so sad. But he got his poop in a group after all that bad stuff happened, and he put down some good times and had some good times. It was I would say as positive as it could have been.
Yeah, exactly. Not the ideal situation. Obviously, that wasn't the ideal result, but right. The result that did result from that was. Yeah. It's a story and it's motivation and I mean, at the other end, the idea of like, I can imagine, you're done. That's it. I don't want to get back on. You can get yourself so far down a hole that you don't even want to start the bike. You don't even want to hear a bike run.
That's not, I am totally just, wanting to get my work life in order, and I want to go do some snowmobiling and with my son. I want to go to the Keys and sit in the sun. I want to get this thing rolling again, but I've had a hard time doing it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, it's 2 weeks of total like just grind. That's the
Oh yeah.
But
well, like
awesome.
It takes its toll on a family too. When everybody's prepared for the worst, that's a tough conversation. I mean, there's a reason why these GP guys and some of them do have families and they're this and that, but like us old guys that are running in the back of the pack, I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices and a lot of tough conversations to be able to go do what we do, or what we did, let's say. And I admire everybody's family and their work and all the sacrifices made by all the people for these few selfish people to go do what they have to do for an unknown reason. Yeah. I mean, I still don't know why the hell I had to do all this.
Yeah. Where the drive, where the, like, you know, this seems like a good idea.
It seems insane. And how the hell would you talk your wife into being fine with that? I mean, like, I don't know. I wish I had like some story or some passionate thing that made me, you know, want to pick this particular mental and physical challenge, but there's nothing there, man. It's just, I don't know. I guess I like taking the harder path. You know, like, I'm a bow hunter, right? So like, you know, yeah, anybody can go hunting with a gun and have great success, but going to kill something with a bow and arrow is like, it's like 5 times as difficult, right?
Yeah.
And that's the path that I choose. I don't even understand myself, Victor.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, it's the wiring, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, that's easy. It's the wiring. And you know, like anything human, there is no tech support, because the guys in tech support, the doctors, you know, like they said, it's a practice. So they don't even know.
I think you're right. It's the wires. I think some people have less wires, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but like, I think when you have as many things firing in my crazy head, like, it's too active, right? There's just too many thoughts, and that's why I have sleep problems and other things. You know, it's just who you are. And I don't know, if you had less wires, there would be less chances that they would have to touch your arc, let's say, and these chaos, this need for this type of interaction.
Yeah. But I mean, if that was the case and everybody was wired the same, we were, you know, the empires would look a little differently.
And I think about, you're from America, right? I mean, you're from California. So you think about mental health and substance abuse and other addictions that are going on in the U.S. Mm-hmm. That's what I know the best, right? But like, there's a lot of problems, man. And I don't know if this is as bad as it gets for me, where I have to do this and I'm not addicted to anything other than work, let's say, and I don't have any of these other menaces pestering my life and my family and my business. I think everybody had to just let me go and do this.
Yeah. Yeah. We're doing okay. We've gone this far with these decisions. So at this point, you know, why change it? You know, we're at where we're at. And I mean, at some point you just got to say, you know, I know I can do this. I know I don't know I can do this, but I know I can.
One of the last things I remember from my like 94-year-old grandpa was, I don't know why, we were playing, he's a big card player, so we're playing cards and so much bullshit. We just gave him so much shit all the time, because I have like 36 first cousins on one side. Ooh. So a bunch of us, you know, playing cards and bullshit.
Yeah.
And he said, we were talking about something, the group of us were, and he's like, "Oh, Wes, you be careful. You're a risk taker by nature, and that can be really scary sometimes. You need to know that you're a risk taker, and you need to, you know, calculate that." And just, I don't know why that sticks out when we talk about this damn dirt bike stuff, but it does. It's something I remember. And now, of course, I'm trying to find a new passion, and I'm thinking like these short takeoff, short landing, bush plane, these little planes.
Oh yeah.
I think that sounds so fun.
You only got 5 feet. Yeah, we're going to land this here.
But I hear my grandpa's voice going, "You got to know your limits. You're a risk taker, so you have to work within the parameters." And it's like, oh shit. So now I need to give my family and my work team a break from Wes's brain.
From Wes's adventures.
Yeah, taking a break. Everybody needs a break.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about Morocco, and we didn't really hit a lot on Dakar. I don't know how much time you have left, but I'm good on time if you have more questions.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, we could do another episode. We'll move it down the road. And because obviously there's a lot of stories, and there's, again, the people want to know about, what it's like racing some of these things. Something that we can do, and I mean, I'll announce it now, is that I'm working on rally profiles. So this is something that, I would love to have your feedback and your stories on too, is that, all these different rallies that exist, and getting like, okay, this is what the TV shows you. This is the real thing. Like, who was going to know about these bugs in the sand, at Abu Dhabi that you had to deal with, or was it Morocco?
It was Abu Dhabi. And then having my Ganzi he's a Buddhist. So this is a cute story. It'll only take a minute. Yeah. So he can't stop hearts. It's against his religion. And so we're a team in this tent, right? And I'm a hunter, and I'm a problem solver. So I'm trying to bait these damn bugs outside of the tent. So I got these bait stations set up. I'm trying different things with lights and trying to figure out how I can get these things away from my ears and my mouth. And, I'm trying to find solutions. Right. And so I tell these guys, anytime somebody gets up, the bait was kind of working. I'm like, anytime somebody gets up in the middle of the night to take a piss, I said, you take a big heavy shoe or whatever you can find, or your boot. And I think the only thing that's going to work is we just got to lower the numbers. We're going to have to kill them and Gonzi, after he wasn't doing it, because he would wake me up once in a while when he'd go pee, and I knew he wasn't killing these damn bugs, and it seemed to be working. And so then I asked him about it. He's like, Wes, I can't do it. I can't stop a heart. It's against my religion. And I'm like, well, dude, I'm not asking you to do anything against your religion, but we're a small team in this tent, and if we don't get some damn sleep, we're going to get hurt. And, we got to try anything we can to hedge our bet here. And it was really funny. And I probably won't tell the rest of the story, but yeah, let's just say he agreed we needed sleep.
Yeah. So we'll put it on. We'll put it that way. Yeah. Nice. But see, that's the thing. Those are the things we don't know. We only get to see the the sunsets and the 160 kilometers an hour, and So.
Well, and back to Abu Dhabi too. If that thing, I would go do that again because it was so special to me to live through it. But I don't want to sleep in the damn sand again. In that hotel that was right by that Biv, it was I think it was €1,000 or $1,000 US dollars a night for a room. Wow. It's kind of a huge advantage for these people that are staying there, and the rest of the field, let's say, are not. And I get it. It's not about equality. It's about, a lot of it is about what you can write checks for. So, but if they should really align that thing with a cheaper lodging option and still have all the awesome riding, I think they'd expand that rally some.
They'd make it a little bigger. Yeah. That sounds like a handful. Especially like you said, you're trying to get some sleep, and you're dealing with the local wildlife.
Well, and you're right in the these damn carts with these belt-driven automatic transmissions, or even these cars, or even dirt bikes. It was so loud at Abu Dhabi because we're literally, the sleep tents were on top of the pits. So all night long, and then the testing all night long is right there. Well, shit, I wasn't prepared for that. I mean, the earplugs weren't cutting it, this and that. So the first few nights were horrible. Yeah. And then it's pure exhaustion. Literally, my phone is ringing in my earbuds or by my head, and my team had to wake me up with all the lights already. Are you coming? They already got their knee pads or knee protection on and their pants up, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm way behind.
Time to go.
That was another cool part of when I realized how close to the end of the rope I was. I mean, I've never been not the first one up, let's say.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you said, I mean, that's the sign that, that's that we're close, that the tank's almost on empty.
The tank was very low, man. That's awesome. I just like that feeling. So, yeah, I feel like we haven't talked about Morocco and some of the other stuff like at all. But, we.
All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Weston Carr talking about his Dakar 2024. And very, very excited to share this with you guys. As you can tell, we cut the episode a little bit short because, well, we're going to have a round 2 with this one. I want you guys, we're going to split it up. We'll have another part of this and we'll talk about some of the other rallies and adventures because, like, as he said, the Dakar was kind of the cherry on top. It wasn't the beginning of the story. So looking forward to bringing that to you guys. If you guys are already subscribed and tuned in, awesome. You will get the notifications when the episode goes live. If you're not and you're listening to this, what's stopping you? Don't forget, jump on over to the website, get signed up for the newsletter, and let's get out of here. And remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Looking forward to our next one coming up. Remember, if you are out riding, do not forget to tag us at Chasing Waypoints. Hashtag Chasing Waypoints. And if you haven't already, get on over to the website, get signed up for the newsletter, the Bivouac, North America's rally raid and adventure riding newsletter. Hey, let's have some fun. Let's find out what are you guys up to. Let's get you featured. If you're a brand and looking to get supported, get some eyeballs, get some ears on your business. Absolutely, hit us up. Send us a message at podcast at Chasing Waypoints. But anyway, that is a wrap. Remember, shiny side up. See you guys.